Inflation is when you pay $15 for the $10 haircut you used to get for $5 when you had hair. Inflation is the silent killer of money. Inflation is the reason why $1 of 2015 is not as powerful as $1 of 2022. It shaves off your money every year and makes you poor, even though you didn't lose any money. Inflation is the consistent rise in the prices of a basket of goods and services in an economy. While it is easy to measure the changes in the price of individual products over time, human needs extends beyond just one or two products. Individuals need a big and diversified set of products, as well as a host of services, for living a comfortable life. That's why inflation is mostly measured by an index, called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. CPI is a basket of goods that roughly represents the products that the people of that economy uses. CPI is calculated by taking the differences in prices for each item in the predetermined basket of goods and averaging them based on their relative weight in the whole basket. So if the collective price of the collection of goods and services has increased by 5%, then there is an inflation of 5% in that economy, but if there is a decrease in the prices of that basket of goods and services, then there is a deflation of 5%, or an inflation of -5% in that economy. CPI tells the amount of inflation in the consumer market when the goods and services reaches the final consumer. But if we want to know the trajectory of inflation in the near future, then we will have to use a different index, called the Wholesale Price Index. This index is a collection of goods and services that a manufacturer needs to make the final consumer product, for example, the raw materials required to make the final consumer product. If WPI inflation is rising, then it means that the manufacturers will now have to spend more money to make the same amount of products, and generally, these extra cost is transferred to the final consumer by increasing the retail prices, hence, increasing CPI inflation. But generally, there is a lag between the increase in WPI inflation and CPI inflation. Companies try to avoid increasing prices of their products, as this will decrease their sales. They may also have some fixed price agreements, or leftover stocks of lower prices, which stops them from increasing the retail prices immediately, but after a certain amount of time, the retail prices will eventually rise. Government can take necessary actions at the correct time on seeing a rise in WPI inflation. If we only relied on the data of CPI inflation, then it will be too late to take the necessary actions to control inflation. Inflation happens when too much money chases too little products. One of the main reasons of the existence of economics is that we humans have unlimited desires, but we only have limited resources to fulfill those desires. There is only a limited number of products in an economy. If there is more amount of money present in a market as compared to the amount of goods in that market, then there will be inflation. An increase in the supply of money is the cause of inflation. A country's money supply can be increased by the central bank by various methods, like by reducing tax rates or interest rates, or by purchasing government bonds. Money supply can also be increased by the government by doing big stimulus spending, like building roads, rails, or other infrastructures. All this measures causes demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation is when the people in an economy have more money to spend on goods and services. So the demand rises, but the supply remains unchanged. Another type of inflation is cost push inflation. This inflation occurs when there is a decrease in the supply of goods, but the demand remains unchanged. For example, if there is only 10 packets of chocolates in a market, but there are 12 people willing to buy the chocolates, then the prices of each chocolate will rise, and the only top 10 highest bidders will get the chocolate. During the COVID period, supply chains got heavily affected, which reduced the amount of goods in the economy, and hence, we had cost-push inflation. If inflation in an economy goes to an unacceptable levels, then the central bank of that country can take some necessary actions to decrease inflation. For example, the central bank can increase the interest rates. If the central bank increases the interest rates, then the people will borrow less money, and hence, they will buy less goods, which will decrease demand, and hence the prices will come down. The central bank can also tell the other commercial banks to maintain a higher amount of cash reserves and assets, which will decrease the amount available to these banks to give loans to the people. The central bank can also sell government bonds in the market and suck out the cash from the economy. All these methods will decrease inflation in a country.